Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be video number 5, inshallah. We're working on our Tajweed rules. So let's go ahead and continue. The next rule that we're going to be focusing on is idgham. And first of all, I have to tell you what idgham means and then tell you different types of idghamat that we have. All right, so we have idgham. Idgham means to merge something that gets assimilated, merged. Merge, or some people say mix. That's what that means. Okay. So most places they categorize it in 2 separate areas, like in 2 different rules, but we'll go one more extra step to kind of define it a little bit further. This is how I was taught, and it makes a lot more sense and it's helpful. So inshallah, I will be sharing that with you guys as well. So let's first of all talk about what are the letters that has to deal with idgham. When we come across these letters, when we're reciting the Qur'an, so we know right away that something has to be done when we come across these. Like we talked about the izhar halqi huruf, the letters of that, which is pronounced from the throat. There were 6 of them. So when we come across those, how we read them, and how do we merge them and all of that. So that was separate rules. Now we're going to talk about idgham and the merging and how we do all of that. So the letters that are going to be associated with this rule is called as, I'll just write it, yar ma loon. It's easy this way when you read it, yarmalun. So, but if you break it apart, these are separate letters that we are focusing on. So it's going to be ya, ra, mim, lam, wow, and noon. Right. So these are the letters right here. Yarmalun. Great. There's that. Okay. And now let's talk about the 3 different types of idgham, and then inshallah then we will give examples, and then we can put it in practice and read it and see what's going on here. So let me see if we can get another marker. Excuse me. Okay, so there's 3 types of idgham. Idgham. The first one is called idgham kamil bi ghunna, and then I'll explain every one of them. Second type is idgham kamil بدون غنة, and I'll explain these what they mean. And the third type is idgham ناقص sorry, let's keep it all and be غنة. Okay, so let's now go ahead and kind of give the meaning of what I'm talking about here. So we already discussed idgham means it's to merge and to mix these letters, and when it has to deal with, when we're dealing with what are we dealing with? Like when we come across when there's a noon and we have to merge it. Remember we talked about the rules of noon and the rules of tanween, and these are like the tanweenat, right? So these are the tanweenat, and then when we came across, sorry, I shouldn't write this one because it becomes confusing. like those are all identical. We talked about those already. It has nothing to do with this section here. We talked about that. So sometimes the rules that will apply here, it's going to be tanwinat looking like this that are not even. Remember, we talked about these. These are identical. So when we come across these, that has to do with ishar halqi, reading them clearly. But when we come across tanwinat like this that are not matching, so there's going to be other way of reading it. So we have to apply a different rule to that. So I just wanted to point that out. So what does this mean? This means idgham means merging. So we have word merging or mixing, merge. Kamil means complete. B means with. And then ghunna, we talked about ghunna, it's a nasal sound that comes from this up here area when you hold for a few seconds or 2 beats, whatnot, or depending on the beats, the nasal sound comes out. So this is nasal sound. Okay. Again, same thing here. Idgham means to merge. Kamil means complete. B means with. Sorry, here is it's bidun, meaning without. Without. And then ghunna is the nasal sound. So meaning it's a merging, it's a complete merging, but there's no ghunna sound coming. And we'll give examples of all of these. And then again, idgham means merging, and then naqis means incomplete. Incomplete, naqis, meaning it's lacking, so it's not complete. And then B with ghunna, and it's the nasal sound. All right. So these are the different 3 types of ghunna that we're going to be, inshallah, focusing, and we'll give examples so we can understand how to read them, inshallah. Okay, so let's kind of go over this real quick before I erase everything so we understand. Idgham means merge or mix, and the letters that we have to deal with idgham is yarmalun, meaning ya, ra, mim, lam, waw, and noon. Okay, and before I erase this, it's good to point out that the letters that deal with idgham naqis has to deal with waw and ya. These are the 2 letters that's going to be dealing with this category, with this rule. Okay. Excuse me. And then idgham kamil bidun ghunna, this will be dealing with ra and lam. And then the rest will be falling in this category, the rest what's left over. So now we have the waw and ya, ra and lam. And then we've got left here the mim, the noon is going to be complete. Okay. So now we have this. We've categorized the letters, which one goes with what rule. Now, inshallah, we're going to go back and then start giving examples of each one. So the first one, I'm going to be focusing on idgham kamil with ghunna. So what examples do we have for that? All right, I'm going to have to erase the board because obviously, as you can see, I don't have a space to leave this and then also give you examples at the same time. So let me clean the board and I will be right back. Okay, so let's give the example for idgham kamil with ghunna, bi ghunna. So this would be the first category, would be idgham kamil bi ghunna. Okay, so this means this is complete merging with nasal sound. So that's the translation. All right, so this would be the first category. Let's go ahead and give an example here, inshallah. فَلَن نَزِيدَكُمْ. فَلَن نَزِيدَكُمْ. Okay. All right. Yes, you guys can see that. And then I'll write this one down here too. And then we'll go back. Okay. So let's point out the areas that we're focusing on. It's two separate things here. Obviously, two separate things here. So our focus here is in the noon. Here's the noon. And then right after that, we have another noon. No. See, there's another noon with the shadda on it. And then here we have a meme with the shadda on it. So noon and noon with shadda. How do we read this? And noon and meme with shadda on it. How do we read this? So this is the area that we have a merging that is complete merging, meaning everything gets merged completely, mixed completely. And by holding it for 2 beats or for 2 counts, then we have bighunna, meaning that the nasal sound will come out. Okay, so for example, when we read this, how do we read it? It's almost as this noon doesn't exist when we read this, right? So you're just gonna read it as falan, falan nazidakum, falan nazidakum, falan nazidakum. Noon is already here. We already have 2 noons here. There's 1 noon here, and then there's 2 noons in here. So you got a lot going on. Excuse me. I think this one has a fatha, this one has a sukun. So this is what's going on here. So this noon, it's almost like you just not even read it. You're just going to go to this noon right here, and this gets assimilated to this. So it becomes as falan nazidakum. Falan, you hold it, and when you're holding it, that nasal sound comes out automatically. And the rule is that we hold this for 2 beats or for 2 counts, and that's how it's read. Falan nazidakum. And then here's a situation with meme. Same thing. The noon gets really assimilated here. So as if like you're not even reading the noon, you're just going to go from meme to meme mushaddada, right? From meme to meme mushaddada. So this is, how do we read this now? We read it as mim, mim masad, mim masad, mim masad. So it's like you're not reading the noon. It's just the meme goes with meme mushaddada. The reason there's a shadda here because there was something before it, obviously, that emerged. So it's just example, so not focus on that. And this also, it's because there's something comes after that, and it's getting ready to merge to that. But our point is here. So we have noon followed by meme mushaddada, and then you have noon followed by noon mushaddada. So in these 2 cases, it is idgham kamil bi ghunna to haraka. Haraka means for 2 beats, for 2 counts. Okay, so hopefully this is easy to digest and understand. All right, now let's go to the area where we have to, there's a lot more that we have to look into. So let me get rid of this example here. So now we're going to go to idgham let's see. Actually, before we do that, sorry, that was the example for noon. Now I also have to give you example for the tanween in this rule. Sorry, I apologize. So what happens when we have a tanween followed by mim mushaddada, or we have tanween followed by noon mushaddada? So in this case, the example is okay, and then we have the example for noon. Let's see how you can see this. Yawma idhin. Okay, so these would be the examples for tanween. Our focus point is this area. So these are two words, jaza'a and then min. So now we have to read it together. Here's our tanween. Remember I told you we have tanweenat that these are not identical. They're not, meaning they're not parallel exactly. So they're a little bit off. The lines are off. And then followed immediately with mim mushaddada. So now we have to merge this completely. So we're going to read it as jaza'an min. Well, here's a different rule. That's why you have the little line there. You have to, we talk about those inshallah later on. Those are the maddiya letters, and we talk about that later. But for now, that's why I stretched it a little bit longer. So it's jaza'an min. See here, min, that is a complete idgham. It's a complete merging. And the nasal sound automatically comes out because noon and mim has that character in it. The nasal sound is part of their character. Okay. And then here, that was for mim mushaddada. In this case, we have the noon mushaddada, and then same thing, we have the tanween kasratain. This is tanween fathatain. And then now we're going to merge this together and read it as yawma idin. See, idin. Now you're going to merge this with this noon mushaddada. Yawma idin na'ima. Yawma idin na'ima. Okay, so this would be the rule for this. We got the mim mushaddada, we have the noon mushaddada. Before there's tanween, and how do we merge this? This is how we merge it. It's a complete merging, and the nasal sound comes out. So this rule is, we already talked about the noon and the mim before it. When it comes, to merges together, and then here in this case we have the tanween that comes in. So we have given the example in here. Now we have tanweenat that comes in with the waw and ya, and then the rules are going to be different for that. The name of the rule is different, and of course, if the name is different, then means how we read it is also, it's a little bit different. Okay, so all right, this is for idgham kamil bi ghunna, meaning that it's a complete merging with a nasal sound for 2 beats. We hold that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and erase this, and then we are going to be talking about the idgham kamil without the nasal sound. I'll be right back. All right, so now we're going to give, notice here that now we have idgham kamil bidun, meaning without ghunna. So the examples for these would be, remember we talked about the waw and ya. So anytime we come across the waw and ya, and it has to deal with noon before it, or tanween, how do we read it? So the rules, the letters for this would be waw and ya. So here's an example. Better. لا. And then I'll write that the other example as well. قلوب يومئذ. Okay. Let's go back. Separate two words here. Qulub, and then another word here. So we're going to separate, first of all, what these two things are, two separate words. And this actually, there's three things here. But focus is here. We're looking for the tanween. It's uneven. So we know, and it's tanween followed by wow, right? This is wow is one of the letters of idgham naqis. Now we're going to have to read this how. So this is idgham kamil. I apologize. This one, it should be, excuse me. Not that. It should be idgham naqis. And it means incomplete. That's why I was like, why? Wait a minute. This doesn't sound right. Incomplete. Incomplete. That's what that means. Idgham naqis. All right. So again, still, this is idgham. We're merging it, but there is no gunna sound. All right, so let's go ahead and, excuse me, let's read this. How are we going to read this? So we come across the tanween followed by wow. And then in this case, we have tanween followed by yeah. This is the tanween. And then immediately right after that, we have the letter yeah. And then we have tanween followed by that letter wow. This alif is not really read. It's not pronounced. This would be a different rule that we're not talking about right now. If this comes at the end of the ayah, or if you're stopping on it for some reason, then the alif is pronounced. But in this case, because that's not what we're focusing on, so we're talking about the idgham. So when we're merging this, then the alif is not has any effect on it. Okay, so how do we read this? We're going to read this as bardaw, bardaw, wala, bardaw. See, the dal with tanween gets merged with the wow. So it's read as bardaw, wala, daw, wala. Okay, so that's how it's read. Now the second one is, now we have the situation with the ya. So we have tanween followed by ya. How do we recite? How do we merge it together? It's qulub, قلوب يومئذ قلوب يومئذ. Some people have a hard time doing this. Bui. That sound. Bui. قلوب يومئذ. So this is the idgham part for the ya. Bardaw wala. Bardaw wala. So once you merge this with the wow, bardaw, now you have to read the wow again. Bardaw wala. So you're not skipping the wow. Bardaw, you can't say bardawla. No, bardaw wala. Okay? Same thing here. قلوب يومئذ. قلوب يومئذ. Okay? So it's merged, but then that letter, the ya, is read again. It's merged with the wow, and then the wow is read again. Okay, so these are the examples when we come across the ya and the wow, and then follow. There's a tanween fathatain, there is tanween dhammatain. This is how we merge it together. So this is idgham naqis bi ghunna. All right, so the next one I'm going to give you example, inshallah, is for idgham kamil. It's a complete merging, but there's no ghunna sound. There's no nasal sound. All right, let me clean the board and I will be right back. All right. So now we have idgham kamil bidun ghunna, meaning complete. It's a complete merging, but there's no ghunna sound. So the letters that apply with this, we have lam and ra, lam and ra. These are the letters that we have to watch for when we come across. When it has to do with the noon and the tanwinat, when the noon gets merged with these, how do we read it? Okay, so example for the first one we have is when we have to deal with the noon. Okay, kasra and kasra. And I'll go ahead and write the next one as well. It's just another example. Okay. All right, so we have two things here. This is one set of word combination. This is another set. So now between these, we have two words, right? So here's the noon, followed by ra with the shadda on it. This is a ra. So here's the noon, followed by lam mushaddada, meaning there has a shadda on it. So in this situation, when you come across this combination, how do we read this? So this is going to be a complete merging, but there's no nasal sound. There's no ghunna because these letters, the character, there's no ghunna in it. So it's just you read it as is, okay? But it's complete merging. So here, this noon gets completely assimilated as if like you're not even reading the noon. Okay, so the ayn gets attached with the ra, like so. As if like you're reading like that. Ar. Okay, so how do we read this? Arrabbihim, 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 and you have to hold it for 2 beats here because you have the ra with shadda on it, so you have to give the space for that. So it's arrabbihim. Okay, it's like if you write it, you would write it something like that, but that's just to kind of show what we're doing here. Okay, so now we have Hamza, we have the noon, but there's a Hamza in it with kasra and then followed by lam mushaddada. Same thing, you're not even reading the noon. The lam goes with the lam. Sorry, and the Hamza goes with the lam mushaddada. So you have to read it as la illam. La, because you have to read that. La illam. La illam. Okay, that's how you read it. La illam. There's no ghunna sound coming. Even here, arab, you're just rolling the ra, but there's no ghunna sound. Arrabbihim la illam. There's no ghunna at all. So this is how you know that there's no nasal sound. This rule. This is complete merging, but without any nasal sound. So this was the example when it has to deal with the noon. How do we read this? Now let's give the example when we come across the tanween, when it comes with the lam and ra. So let's work on that one. Yeah, we can still see it. The next one is okay. ذكر للعالمين. Okay, make sure I have it written correctly. And then the next example, I'll just go ahead and write that one too, and then we talk about it at the same time. La, uf, ra. Okay, let's point out the areas that we need to focus on. Towards here, here is our tanween, and this is the lam with shadda. And then here is our tanween, and of course there's the ra with the shadda on it. So in this situation, how are we going to read this? And this rule applies. So this is idgham kamil bidun, without ghunna, meaning this is complete merging, that there's no nasal sound. So we read it as dhikrul, dhikrul lil'alamin, dhikrul lil'alamin, dhikrul lil'alamin. Because you have lam, there's shadda on it, so that means there's two lams in there. And then you have this tanween merges with this, so it becomes dhikrul lil'alamin. So the ra with the tanween gets merged with the lam, so it's dhikrul lil'alamin. And then same situation here, we have the tanween followed by ra mushaddada, so we read it as la ra'ufur rahim, la ra'ufur rahim. So tanween followed by lam, the ra with shadda on it, so this gets assimilated completely, merged, but there's no nasal sound. La ra'uf, la ra'uf rahim. No nasal sound. Same thing here. Dhikrul lil alamin. No nasal sound at all. All right, so this is pretty simple. Inshallah, once you get the hang of it, it's not that complicated. So just kind of watch out for those yarmalun, those letters that we come across, the ya, ra, yar, mim, lam, waw, and noon. And what happens when we have the mim mushaddada, noon mushaddada, followed by noon and mim? It's a complete merging. And then we have to deal with the letters, the waw and ya. When we come across with those letters, with has to do with noon and the tanween, we have to merge it. It's naqis, it's incomplete merging, but still there's a nasal sound. And then the third category would be this one right here. This is idgham kamil, and there's no nasal sound, so this would be complete merging, but then there's no nasal sound, and it has to deal with the noon and then with the tanween situation when we come across this. All right, inshallah, I think we've covered those three rules that we started with in the beginning of the video. And so, of course, we have a lot more to go forward. But as far as those three examples that I had given you, those rules, sorry, not examples, we've given examples for each one of them. And hopefully, inshallah, that should help. And I think the best way is to always, when you're reciting, like I said in the past, for those who are just starting, they're the beginners and they're not really noticing the rules, so it's always good to have excuse me, remember I showed you guys the Qur'an that is probably used in most of the masajids for Sunday school, teaching Sunday school students. The reason I'm pointing this out is because everything is color coded, if you can see. And so every color in here, it tells you, as if you look in the bottom, all of these color codes, right next to it, there's a rule that apply. So if you get one of these mushafs, they're sold individually, so you don't have to get the entire thing. Just get the last juz, and then inshallah, when you're reading, it points out all of these rules, so in different colors, so you know what to do when you come across these situations. Because sometimes when we are new, we really don't know when to apply the rules, right? So in this case, this helps because it color codes, and so it tells you that, okay, when you come across this, you have to do this, right? And then you can look down and it says, what do you need to do? Of course, these rules are in Arabic, so it might be better to, get it translated somehow with someone who speaks Arabic or something, and that helps you, inshallah, figure it out. Or based on what we've covered, you should be able to, inshallah, find the rules helpful here. I'm trying to see if we have anything from today that we just talked about. Yeah, there's a lot. Okay, so like for example, if we come across here, I don't know if you guys can see this, right? This is, so it says Fiji, they have hablum mim masad. So this is some of the rules that we just covered, the example. So here the blue is highlighted, meaning the blue, it's huruf of qalqala, which we already covered, right? So, and then follow that, right on top of that, you have the double dhammatain, which is the two wows, and then it's highlighted in gray. So that means that there's a rule that applies. I hope you can see the light colored gray. And then right beneath that, right here next to it is meme. See, it's color coded in green. So that, and then that means that you have to do something. Here it tells you right here. So this is it's emerging. So we read it as hablum hablum. So this is it's emerging, right? And then follow that again. You have meme with noon. Noon is highlighted in gray, and then followed by meme mushaddada again. And then this is the thing what we did just a few minutes ago. This will be idgham kamil bighunna to haraka. So it would be mim masad mim masad. So this is what I'm saying. Like if you have something like this, inshallah, it might be very helpful. Okay. All right. So I will go ahead and erase the board, and then inshallah we'll come back with our next rule. Okay. Before going to another rule, what I just thought about it, I thought maybe I should just go ahead and give more examples from the Qur'an for these rules that we kind of covered, so we have a little bit better understanding, inshallah, before I introduce another rule. So we're going to keep this video, this lesson, just for these before I add another. So I'll add the next rule on a next video, but here I'll just give a few more examples, inshallah, and tell you how it is and how we should read it and what rule applies here. Okay, so I'm going towards the end. So this is from Surah Al-Fil. Let me just open my marker here. Okay, so the last فَجَعَلَهُمْ كَعَصْفٍ مَعْكُولٍ. So how are we going to read this? Okay. كَعَصْفٍ مَأْكُولٍ. Okay. So now we have tanween followed by meme mushaddada here. So the rule, how are we going to read this? We're going to merge this together. So this would be, if we have to describe it, this would be idgham kamil bi ghunnatu haraka, right? So because why? Because with the way we read ka'asfim ma'kul, ka'asfim, you're holding it and then you're merging it with the meme. Ka'asfim fim ma'kul. See, fim ma'kul. So tanween followed by this. So this is complete, and there's nasal sound. It's complete merging. So this would be the rule. When we come across, we can describe this as idgham kamil bi ghunnatu haraka, meaning there's a complete merging with a nasal sound for 2 beats. Okay. Next example that I don't have, I'm just looking for examples from from this surah. Okay. For example, بحجارة 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 من. Okay, so again, we have tanween followed by mim mushaddada in this case. I shouldn't write these because then it becomes confusing. You're like, what are those lines? So we have tanween followed by mim mushaddada, meaning there's a shadda on it. So this rules apply again. بحجارة بحجارة من بحجارة من. Okay, so tanween gets merged with the mim mushaddada, and then the rule is this is idgham kamil بغنة haraka, meaning it's a complete merging with the nasal sound. We hold it for 2 beats. Okay, let's see what else I can find here. Another example. This is from Surah Al-Ma'un. It says فويل. You can see this, yeah. فويل للمصلين. مصلين, and then it stops. Okay, so here we have another situation. We have fawail, and then there's tanween up here, and then we have lam here with the shadda on it. So remember we talked about the lam and the ra. We said that it's a complete merging, but there's no nasal sound, right? So fawai, how are we gonna read this now? We're gonna merge this, the lam with the lam. Fawailul, fawailul lil. So now we have to merge this lam with this lam and then pronounce this lam because there's 2 lams. So in this case, we have 3 lams back to back. We have 1 lam here. There's 2 lams in here. 1 lam here, 1 lam here. There's a sukun on this one. And there's tanween on that one. So now we have to read all of this. So we have lam, lam, and lam. There's sukun on this one, then this one has a kasra on it. So lul, 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 lulli, right? So this is a fawailulli, fawailulli. This is how it's happening here. This, I'm just dissecting it. But if you take all of the stuff away, this is what is here in this situation right here. So how we read it as fawailul للمصلين. Okay, so this would be rule idgham kamil bidun hunna, meaning there's a complete merging, but there is no nasal sound. Let's see. Another example is from Surah Al-Quraysh. This is, so I'm just going to write Ju'in, Ju'in wa, oops, sorry, missing the hamza. Wa amanahum. Wa amanahum. Okay, so now we have tanween, kasratain here. I'm not going to highlight it, actually. I'm just going to circle it so it's easy. And then immediately we have the wow. So the rule is, how do we read this? We have the tanween and then followed by wow. Remember, we talked about wow and ya are being the naqis letters, meaning it's incomplete merging, but there's a nasal sound. So we read it as, it's actually, there's something else, min ju'in. So it's min ju'in wa amanahum. So this gets merged with the wow. Okay? So the rule here would be idgham naqis, meaning it's an incomplete merging, but there's a nasal sound. All right. Also, when we read in Surah Al-Humaza, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Waylul likulli humazatil lumaza. So we have the, let's see if you guys can see that, yeah. Waylul, the lam with damatain, followed by lam with shadda on it. So we read it as Waylul likulli humazatil lumaza. Humazatil. See, because there you have the two kasratain in the bottom under the ta marbuta. So now this gets merged with this lam. Humazatil lumaza. Okay, so this would be both of these are the same rules. So we have idgham naqis bi ghunna in this case. Hopefully this is helping a little bit. If you guys have any questions, if you're not sure about something, if you anything, you can always put a comment for me, and I will inshallah do my best to answer that question that you may have. All right, so I mean, of course, there's tons and tons and tons of examples in the Quran that I can just keep pointing, but I think the best thing is that inshallah, now that you have these, your notes, and you can always go back and start from the back surahs, from the smaller surahs where it's easy, that you only have a few lines that you can look through and see if you can find these rules. And if you can't find it, then move on to the next surah, because not every surah has all the rules. So some surahs, you may not find those certain rules in it. You will find certain rules that we haven't covered, but you may not find some of the rules that we've covered. So just keep that in mind. Inshallah. So I think you will be able to find it. And I think we will go ahead and stop here before we go on to the next set of rules. Until next video, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.